Before we dive into today's breaking news from Ashburn, do us a favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you bleed burgundy and gold, and drop a comment below, because what we're talking about today matters, and it's something that could shape the entire 2025 season for the Washington Commanders. Let's get right into it. Terry McLaurin is officially absent from training camp. Not excused, not late, absent, and the tension around his contract situation just hit a boiling point. Tuesday morning was supposed to be about energy, fresh starts, and the Jaden Daniels era taking flight, but instead, all eyes turned to who wasn't there. Terry McLaurin, team captain, locker room leader, and arguably the heart and soul of the Commanders, did not report for the mandatory conditioning test that kicks off training camp. Let's be crystal clear. He's the only player who didn't show up, and this wasn't some quiet, under-the-radar absence. This was loud, intentional, and speaks volumes. According to multiple reports, the reason is simple: contract frustration. And if you've been following McLaurin's public comments lately, this didn't come out of nowhere. Last week, McLaurin broke his usual calm demeanor in an interview and said the quiet part out loud. "I've been pretty frustrated. I'm not going to lie. Everything that has transpired up to this point has been disappointing and frustrating." That's not posturing. That's a guy who feels disrespected. Terry's entering the final year of a 3-year, $68.4 million deal signed back in 2022. Since then, the wide receiver market has exploded, and now his contract ranks just 17th in average annual value. 17th. For a guy who's had 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons and is coming off 13 touchdowns with a rookie QB under center, that's not a bargain. That's a steal for Washington, and McLaurin knows it. Look around the league. DK Metcalf, drafted in the same class as Terry, just inked a 4-year, $132 million extension in Pittsburgh. Yes, Metcalf is 2 years younger, but he hasn't put up the same consistent production year after year, nor has he carried his offense the way Terry has. And McLaurin hasn't even asked for a specific number publicly. What he has said is simple. With how the market is today, it conveys what guys of my caliber are deserving of. Translation, pay me like a wide receiver 1 because I am one. And the fans know it. The locker room knows it. Even Adam Peters knows it. When asked about the holdout, GM Adam Peters didn't dodge the topic. "Without a doubt, I think everyone in this building values Kerry very much. We're going to do everything we can to get a deal done." That's good to hear, but words won't be enough anymore. This isn't just about keeping your best receiver happy. It's about sending a message to your locker room and to Jaden Daniels that the core leaders of this team are being taken care of. If McLaurin, a team-first professional who's played through losing seasons without complaint, can't get a deal done here, what message does that send to the rest of the roster? Jaden Daniels is entering year 2 as the franchise quarterback. The most dangerous thing a team can do to a young QB is take away his top target and his sense of stability. McLaurin didn't just pad stats last year. He was Daniels' security blanket, red zone assassin, and emotional support through all the rookie growing pains. If this holdout lingers into preseason games, or worse, the regular season, the consequences will ripple through the offense. Let's be real. Deebo Samuel is flashy. Ben Sinnott is intriguing. Luke McCaffrey has upside. But none of them are ready to shoulder wide receiver 1 responsibilities like Terry McLaurin. And that's what makes this standoff so dangerous. As the McLaurin saga simmers, Dan Quinn tried to redirect the spotlight to some of the Commanders' brightest young stars, Jaden Daniels and Mikey Sainristil. At his opening press conference, Quinn was glowing about how rare both players are. Jaden and Mikey, they kind of corrected it in season. They didn't have to wait until the offseason. That's a massive compliment. Most rookies stumble, reset, and then grow in year 2. But these guys, they evolved on the fly. That's not just talent, that's mental toughness. Sainristil played outside corner, a completely new role for him, and didn't flinch. And Daniels, he didn't just survive year 1, he thrived. Once you get to that space where you're not relying on just your talent anymore, but the skill that you've developed, that's the secret sauce. So while McLaurin's absence casts a shadow, the potential jump from Daniels and Sainristil in year 2 is keeping the energy high inside the building. The Commanders are building something. The core is young, hungry, and extremely promising. Quinn's system is starting to take shape. There's legitimate momentum. But this McLaurin issue, it's a storm cloud forming fast, and the front office can't afford to ignore it. You don't want this to become a distraction. You don't want to see Daniel starting preseason games with no Terry on the field, and you certainly don't want to see McLaurin traded over a disagreement that should have been solved months ago. This is the kind of moment that defines a regime. Does Adam Peters close the deal and reward the guy who's given everything to this franchise? Or does a crack begin to form in the foundation they're trying to build?
And in case you missed it, over the weekend, former President Donald Trump took to Truth Social and reignited a debate that's been dead or at least dormant since 2020. The Washington Commanders should immediately change their name back to the Redskins. But he didn't stop there. Trump made it clear that if the Commanders want cooperation with a new stadium deal, particularly on the federal land near FRK Stadium, they better do what he says. That's right, he's threatening to stall or block progress unless the name goes back to what it was, controversy and all. This isn't just a hot take. This is a direct attempt to tie a football franchise's future to a political agenda. And let's just say Stephen A. Smith isn't buying it. On First Take, Smith ripped into Trump's comments. "I think it's the president being petty. I think it's him being evasive." Smith isn't just disagreeing with Trump, he's exposing the strategy. He believes Trump is using the Commanders as a convenient smokescreen, something flashy to distract his base, while deeper political fires burn in the background. We're talking about issues like border policy failures, trade tensions, Epstein file demands from within his own party. And this is where things get deeper. Smith pointed out that even Republican lawmakers are pushing to release the Epstein files, and instead of addressing that, Trump is out here talking about helmets and team logos. Smith didn't hold back. It's just him catering to his base, to distract them from other issues, including the Epstein files, by the way. That's not your usual sports debate. That's pulling the curtain back on what's really happening. Let's stay real here. The Commanders didn't drop the name Redskins because of a whim. They changed it after decades of public pressure, Native American advocacy, and ultimately sponsor backlash. It was one of the most controversial and overdue moves in modern sports history. So for Trump to try and drag the team backward in exchange for political leverage, that's not nostalgia, that's opportunism. And more importantly, that's power politics being used to meddle in team operations. That's not how serious NFL franchises are run. Stephen A. put it bluntly, much ado about nothing, let's keep our eyes on what really matters. And let's be honest, he's not wrong. And speaking of how NFL franchises are run, this ties in perfectly to another headline from this week. While Trump throws tantrums about team names and Jerry Jones throws his own players under the bus in Dallas, the Commanders have something those other situations don't. Adam Peters. The Commanders' new GM is proving every single day why he's the polar opposite of the chaos we see in Dallas or on Trump's feed. At his press conference with Dan Quinn this week, Peters was calm, thoughtful, and transparent about the Terry McLaurin situation. He didn't gaslight, he didn't dodge, he didn't feed headlines. He simply acknowledged the reality and reaffirmed the goal. We're going to do everything we can to get a deal done. Compare that to Jerry Jones, who literally said Micah Parsons could get hit by a car the day after signing a contract, or Trump, who just threatened to block a stadium deal unless the team honors a name that's been widely recognized as a racial slur. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Peters is building a franchise with accountability and trust. Trump and Jones, they're chasing attention and burning bridges while they do it. Let's zoom out. The Commanders are on the cusp of something special, a new era, a new identity, a new quarterback, and yes, soon a new stadium that reflects the future, not the past. But if this process gets hijacked by political agendas and power plays, that progress could stall. That's not a Commanders problem, that's a Washington problem. That's why fans, players, and the league itself need to stay focused. Don't let noise from the outside drown out what's being built on the inside. And Stephen A. hit it on the nose. This isn't about a mascot. This is about who gets to control the narrative and the future of a franchise that's finally moving in the right direction. So now we turn it to you, Commanders Nation. Do you think the team is dragging its feet with Terry McLaurin? Should they pay him now or wait and see what the market does next offseason? And how concerned are you that this holdout could impact Jaden Daniels' development? Drop your takes in the comments, hit that like button if you want Terry back on the field ASAP, and don't forget to subscribe to Commanders HQ for daily updates, training camp reports, and all the drama from inside Ashburn. This situation is heating up, and you don't want to miss what happens next.